Yo, what's up, fam? What's up? Go ahead and turn these alerts off, or at least turn this down. Yeah, I don't think I have anything crazy on the screen. I think we good. How y'all doing tonight? I'll let some people chime in. Can y'all hear me? If anybody can't hear me or can't see me, let me know. I'm gonna give everybody about 3-4 minutes to come in. All right, I'm gonna have to turn this off. I'll get everybody want a message now. All right, do not disturb is on. Democrat. Bernie's like 100 already, isn't he? How old is Bernie Sanders? Hold on. Let me get Chat GTP up. How old is Bernie Sanders? Yeah, bro. He 83. He ain't gonna make it. I mean, I ain't saying he ain't gonna make it. I'm just saying like he too old to really run for anything. Hey, man, I appreciate y'all chiming in tonight, man. Y'all know I always come in with a talent acquisition tip. I'm gonna give you guys, if you're in white collar work, hell, if you're not in white collar work, one of the most underrated skills that you can actually have. Yeah, 83. You're talking about a few years from now. I mean, what do we 85 running for president? I'm going to talk about the underrated skill tonight and what you need to say during your interview so people don't think you lying. And y'all really going to, if you, white collar or blue collar, if you ever want to get promoted, you're going to need this one skill set. It's just one skill set that you're going to need if you want to get promoted. Microsoft Excel. Microsoft Excel is the one skill set that if you have it, and if you are an expert in it, it is going to take you really, really far in your career. And when I say expert, I mean, I'm not saying like you need to make, animations in the Excel sheet, but you need to know how to do pivots, create sheets. You don't really need to know formulas, but you need to know what it is and when you need it and why you need it. Most formulas you're gonna find online anyway, but being able to create sheets, being able to search for data, these are the questions that you're going to get from hiring managers. Microsoft Excel is the most transferable skill across any genre. I mean, you can in sales, if you have Excel, you're going to go further. Medical field, if you could do Excel, you're going to go further. Engineering, if you could do Excel, you're going to go further. Yeah, pivot tables, VLOOKUPs, and to be honest, all of that honestly is novice level. But if you know it, if you know how to get through it, you can put expert on your resume. Right? No, there's no recruiter that's going to be like, all right, I'm going to ask you a question to prove that you know how to use pivot tables. I don't have that. That's the manager's job. My job is to see what you can. You telling me what you can and cannot do. So if you want one transferable skill, like if you want to just learn one thing, Microsoft Excel is going to be the one thing that you need to learn. Microsoft Excel, like a lot of people, like, oh, where, I know how to use the Microsoft suite, but nobody cares that you can do PowerPoint. It's cool, but I mean, you can almost build PowerPoint now in AI. So The biggest thing that you need to learn right now is Microsoft Excel. It's a soft skill. If you know how to use it, or you use Excel on a daily basis now, somebody on your team creates a sheet and you having to upload information into that sheet, go and talk to that person and find out, like, hey, how do I create sheets? How do I add data? How do I learn small functions, right? Some functions, right? Just that simple stuff. Make sure that you do learn Microsoft Excel, especially if you're early in your career. If you are a 20-something, bro, please know this. And if you are a career change person, or you're a late starter, right now go to YouTube, download 100 videos on how to use Microsoft Excel. So, matter of fact, you didn't have to do that. If you actually go to Microsoft website, they have like 30 lessons that are probably like a minute and a half a piece that'll walk you through the basics of how to use Microsoft Excel. SharePoint is another big thing. Everybody doesn't use it, depending on your industry, but yeah, if they ask for SharePoint, you better know how to use it. But that's the biggest one. That's the most transferable one. And if you actually do really, really well in Excel, you probably will pick up, Tableau or Power BI, because like once you become an expert in Excel, and I'm trying to learn Tableau and Power BI, because data visualization is going to be where everything is going in the future, especially with AI. I mean, with AI crunching numbers, you're going to have to make yourself valuable, even as a recruiter, right? I'm going to have to make sure that I know trends. I know which way to go. I just read an article today. They were saying AI is going to get rid of first jobs up on AI would be attorneys and recruiters. Now, I don't really believe that, but I understand that my role is going to be augmented by AI. AI can't really figure out that a manager is probably low-key a bigot, and I need to hire around that, right? Like, AI is not going to be able to figure that out. So, like, same thing with, attorneys, right? AI is not going to figure out how to be a great attorney, right? What's the old saying? A good attorney knows the law. A great attorney knows the judge, right? So, yeah, AI is not going to beat that out. It's not going to defeat that. But biggest talent acquisition tip tonight that I have for anybody that's here, that's listening, is get those Microsoft Excel skills up. And don't feel that Microsoft Excel is super daunting, right? Don't think that. You can literally learn Microsoft Excel in 6 weeks between YouTube and Microsoft website. Matter of fact, the local community college here actually has an Excel class, which I meant to mention this last week. Maybe I did mention it last week. And it's a 6-week class. It's all online. And I think the class is like $75, and it's to teach like advanced Excel skills, right? So, bro, $75 to be able to put on your resume you're an expert level Microsoft Excel user. It's worth it, because that alone might be the difference between $15,000 raise and a $30,000 raise. Just real talk. Microsoft Excel, most underrated skill out there. So, what are we talking about tonight? Hey, welcome in Harlem, O2, Bori. We just get started, man. I was telling everyone the most underrated skill, Power Automate. I'm gonna have to look up Power Automate. Is that gonna be along the lines of I guess I could just chat GPT it real quick. I'm not familiar with Power Automate though, but I might have to look into that. Oh, what do we have tonight? What are we gonna start tonight? Oh, I know what we're gonna start tonight. I got one for you. I need to just figure out how I'm gonna do this. Which screen can I put this on? Let's see here. Here we go. This is where we starting tonight. Now, this is not my page. Do not look at these titties.
So fuck about that. Kill that shit.
Ow.
Either you got a good business or you don't. All that shit, don't nobody want to hear that shit. That's a hustle. Support me because I got a black business. Is your restaurant clean? Is the food good? Do you got consistent cooks? Is the material of your shit good? Stop doing that. Oh, you support the white people? No, I support consistency, baby.
Yeah.
Well, fuck about what color you is. I'm gonna spend my money. That paper, I'm gonna spend them millions where the fuck I want to spend it at. Whether it's Porsche, Ferrari, Lamborghini, I'm gonna do what the fuck I want to do while I'm here. But I'm gonna tell you one thing: I ain't gonna be finessed off some black shit. But one thing about it. 70% of you motherfuckers is not going to make it. I'm not no motherfucking fake ass motivational speaker that talk this dumb shit. I'm the #1 nigga in the country. You know why? Y'all seen me come out of the penitentiary. I make millions and I make millionaires, baby. You understand? Us. Oh, I'm black. Oh, black people. Nobody gives a fuck about that.
That was Wallow.
Kill that shit.
Now, one of the things that Wallow is speaking
Either
on,
you got a good business or you don't. All that shit don't nobody.
one of the things that Wallow is speaking on here is, do we support just because it's a black-owned business? And I see that question is trending on social media. Do we support things just because they're black-owned businesses? And look, I'm not gonna lie. In the beginning, I used to be one of these people that was like, you know, it's black-owned, it's black-owned, it's black-owned. You know, I'm gonna support. And then a lot of issues that we run across with black-owned businesses is quality control. That's one of the biggest issues that a lot of us run into. Quality control. One of my favorite restaurants was opened up by a couple. Ended up becoming friends with them for years in Charlotte. The husband ended up getting sick. I do think he passed away, and they ended up selling the business. You could call in an order an hour and a half, and you get there, and your order wouldn't be ready. A lot of you not. Hold on real quick. Let's see. June, I agree. I definitely agree. Two things can be true. But yeah, I definitely think that quality control is a huge issue here. Now, I think where Wallow's missing the point right here is the reason why a lot of businesses are supported in other communities and not our communities is because we don't really live around one another like that. And when we do live around one another like that, it's not like it's our building, right? Like if you go to Koreatown or Chinatown, right, these buildings are owned by them. So of course, when they live there and they go and grab food, you know, they're going to go downstairs and pick up, you know, food, and they're going to go around the corner to the dry cleaners. Whereas in our communities, the first thing that we really do is we leave, right? I live in the suburbs. I don't live around a lot of my people. There isn't a lot of black-owned business. I got to go out the way to try to find a black-owned business. And I guess one of the questions that I have is, you know, where are our communities? Like, if you want to support your community, if you want your money to stay in the community, it can't just be, well, I'm going to hunt down a black-owned business. Yeah, and he's also been a little reductive. You know, he had a homeboy that had connections that was already in the field, and you know, a lot of success is preparation, meeting opportunity, and they were in that space really, really early. And when I say that, in that space, in the podcasting space, in the podcasting world. So, but I do have a problem when we have this ideal of like, oh, we gotta support black-owned businesses, and one part of the problem is quality control. But two, we are also being reductive when we pretend that we live around one another. Like, we do not live around one another, and we don't really have our own communities like that. So I don't really get up in arms when people say, oh, you know, support a black-owned business one way or the other. Until we actually have our own communities, it's really going to be hard to keep that money circulating, you know, in the community, right? Like, again, using the examples of, you know, Chinatown or Koreatown, you missed Wallow. I played Wallow speaking on why I don't want to say why he say he don't support black owned business, but basically you have to be more than that. And I agree. I agree with him, right? I don't agree with the whole onset of I don't have to support it just because it's black. I do think that other communities have a sense of I wouldn't even call it a sense of pride, right? I think there's a comfort level that other communities have buying and selling to one another that we don't have in our community, right? Like I'm wondering, like if I say, hey, go buy this hat, you know, there's this wonder of, well, I mean, how much is Liz charging for hats, right? Like, what are they going to charge me versus what Black Dads Club is going to charge me? And for everybody that came in here, I'm Pastor Mike Will. I'm one of the co-hosts from Black Dads Club. We typically drop a pod every week. Most of the time, we're cracking jokes, but we focus in on basically anything that black men deal with on a day-to-day basis. One of the things that I like to stress is speaking on the emotional labor that black men typically deal with. So Wednesday night, I don't know if we're going to be able to crack as many jokes because, it's not me and Gavin bouncing off each other. But it is the audience, that you guys can sit in here, ask questions, and we can actually dive into things that I'm interested in, which is, making sure that black men, especially productive black men, that our emotional labor is recognized. Mimi says, I think you have to be intentional. Our dollar is valuable, and there's a lot of black-owned businesses in Charlotte. No, I agree, but, if all the black-owned businesses in Charlotte was in Betty's Ford, and we all lived off of Betty's Ford, and it wasn't, and it was Betty's Ford that it is today, I think it's a lot easier, right? Like, I think in a lot of communities, they have built up their communities. And we have communities like that. I think Prince George, Maryland is one of those areas where, you probably will find you probably find the black dollar circulating a lot more in that area than, you would, let's say, in a Charlotte, North Carolina. So, yeah, why we should be intentional, we're not really in an environment that's conducive to that because we don't really have neighborhoods. I think having neighborhoods is a big deal, and I think us living next to each other would help that. But do we really want to live next to each other, right? Like, if you went in a neighborhood and it's 90% black, right? How do you feel? Right, as a black person, how do you feel? We'll have to have the conversation with our addition to validation through consumerism. Yeah, I a lot of what happens in our community right now is validation, and when you find a group of men that really don't want that validation, right, or don't really need it, right, like when you see what's going on with productive black men, right, like. A lot of that inward looking is because they're like, yeah, I'm doing this because I like it. I don't really need anybody else validation. Having our neighborhoods would make it easy. It would, but I mean, do we want to live around each other, right? Like that is a huge question. Like we have to be honest. It's not many of us online tonight. We could be honest, right? Do we like living next to each other? Like I think I would enjoy Marty, Dad June, Mimi as neighbors, right? I think that would be a great neighborhood. But is that how we feel as a people? I don't think so. I think if we honest with ourselves, I think in our community there is a validation when we leave the black community and we move into a community that's not mostly black. And I don't really see other people doing that. Whenever you see H1B1 move into a neighborhood, man, it be one, and then next thing you know, the whole street. It's all of them. Right? Anytime any group of people, move into it's all of them. And I think we think that like HOAs weren't just created because they hated racism, right? Like HOAs was created because they weren't getting along also, right? We need a standardized set of rules. And in our community, can we get to a place where we have a standardized set of rules so we could have neighborhoods, so we can support one another's businesses? I think things would be safer. I think communities would be better. I'm just saying. Let me see here. Oh, I know where we're gonna go. Y'all want to go to politics? I'll drop this in here real quick. Let me see if I can get this in here. All right.
Where were black people during the hands-off demonstration? I am so glad you asked. 3 quick points. 1. White people have a bad habit of only recognizing black people's work when that work happens in white people's spaces and with white people's approval. Take as much time as you need to process that. But we've been working. We've been building. We've been protesting. Many of you all just aren't paying attention until you realize that our bodies aren't on the front lines of your protests. Black organizers pulled together a 24-hour counter program to Trump's State of the Union, reaching more than 1 million collective streaming viewers. Black communities are leading a very successful boycott against Target stores across the country for changing their public stance on DEI. And at least one black community has taken up arms to protect their kids against the pro-Trump white nationalist groups trying to intimidate them. Black folks aren't missing. Black folks are working. Point 2. Protests in the streets have their time and their place. But if we learned anything from 2020, it's that what we need right now is real political power. Like knocking doors and organizing black voters in Louisiana to defeat a constitutional amendment. An amendment, mind you, that would have made it easier to send minors to adult jails and prisons for longer sentences. And that effort was led, you guessed it, by black people.
Early voting was powered by black voters. They turned out in huge numbers. The folks who made that happen join us right now.
Point number 3. It's clear that black people aren't taking a break from the work. The evidence is everywhere, if you're looking for it. But have you considered that black people might be taking a break from doing our work on your terms? Why aren't black people protesting? Where were black people during the hands-off demonstration? I am so glad you asked. 3 quick.
Oh shit. All right. So that was our brother there talking about where are blacks during this protest period. And you remember last week we spoke about Cory Booker, right? I was like, yo, I don't like Cory Booker speaking, right? Jasmine Crockett. Hakeem Jeffries he's the minority whip, so I guess he has to. But one of the things that what I would like us to do more is more voting, getting involved more on local levels, more politics. But the protesting, hey, I am glad everybody's sitting back saying, not our problem. It's not. And here's the thing. The crazy thing is, being black in this country, we do know if one thing is true is it will be our problem at some point. But I do not think that this is something that we need to run out into the streets on right now. Even though, it's constitutional crisis after constitutional crisis. Like, we can't deny that. But the front line of this has to be the people that decided that they didn't want to show up for the election, or they wanted to try something different. This is on them. This is on them. This is not ours. You learn line dancing with what is it? The fan dance. The fan dance. Y'all, I was gonna have this conversation about masculinity tonight, but I kind of feel like on one turn I'm low key like beating up the press with this. I feel like that a little bit. I'm done with all performative activisms. Yeah, I agree. Protesting is performative. What's crazy is if we want our voices to be heard, like if we really want our voices to be heard in this country, we voted a 90% clip. Period. Point blank. You would not be able to ignore a voting block that votes at a 90% clip, right? And don't confuse what I'm saying here with 92% of black women voted for Kamala. No, what I'm saying is 92% of all eligible black voters go to the booth. Period. Right? Not what candidate you vote for. As a whole, every single one of us should go to the polls. Yeah, I would easily say that. I mean, America as a country only votes in the 60% range. So yeah, I could definitely see Black Americans being 56% of the vote. If we want to be taken seriously as blacks, it should be 90%. It really should be. It should be 90%. And it's the easiest thing we can do. I mean, well, now they about to get you a real ID, and everybody don't have their real ID. But no, that's where we need to be. We need to vote. Voting has become performative in national elections. It is. And here's the thing. We can make so much change in non-presidential elections, right? We can make so much change locally. If we was to I got features that work back here that I don't even know about yet. Sorry guys, we're still doing this new. By the end of summer, this will be much more professional. But if we voted at a 90% clip, right? Republicans would have to take you seriously. Democrats would have to take you seriously. Candidates would have to give you something for your vote, right? Like they'd have to give you something. Everything that blacks received, if we're talking about from the civil rights era, all that was watered down, right? Everything that you was given that should have been for the descendants of the enslaved, children of Africa, all that was watered down with civil rights, right? Like civil rights ended up becoming civil rights for everybody, right? And I'm not saying that nobody else deserves civil rights. But what I am saying is like, there was a line. There was a line. And there's no way, and blacks, African Americans in this country, have fallen to the back of the line. And there's no way to get back to the front of the line to finally get what's owed if we don't vote at a 90% clip. Marty Baraka said we're voting at 56%. So I know as a whole, like the presidential election, I think was like 60 some odd percent. We should, and that's the thing. It's like as a people, right? So we talked about living in the community, right? Like, let's be clear, we don't like that, right? We have not decided who's the leader of our communities, right? So we don't have that. Maybe the one thing that we should do is at least we can all vote. Like there has to be something that we agree on as a people. Yeah, you're right. If it doesn't pivot, I mean, we have to find people that's going to do things in our interests. That's gonna be super hard though. That dude. Like, that's gonna be super hard. It's gonna be super hard to get blacks as a community to pivot votes for a tangible. I don't know. We might be heading enough into a constitutional crisis that maybe we do get a new form of government at the end of this ridiculousness. I think black Americans would do good in a parliamentary system. I think if we had a parliamentary system and we could create different little coalitions of blacks. Yeah, like I don't know. We might have one. Might have one in 8 years. Who knows what the hell with this administration? Oh, do I have any more politics things in here? Do I have enough politics things? Hey, I appreciate it, Callie. I appreciate it, man. Hey, I appreciate y'all listening. Where you at? Well, I mean, obviously Cali, but you said Navy, so I'm in Charlotte, so I'm thinking Norfolk. I appreciate you though, man. I appreciate you. The voter ID is crazy. It is a poll tax. What's crazy now? I've been voting in North Carolina for the past 20 years, so this may not be the case everywhere. But it's like you don't need an ID to vote because you literally have to give them your name and your address, and they have to find you in the book. Marty, I think a lot of the Midwest states never enforce real ID. And most flyover states, those people never leave. I'm learning that people in flyover states are just like people that live in Triborough, New York City, right? They never leave. Like they never leave. So a lot of people never had to get a real ID because they didn't fly. Like a lot of us probably fly because it's a wee bit of a privilege. But I mean, yeah, if you got to get, because I mean, I'm almost certain I had to get a birth certificate because I did get a birth certificate in the last decade, so that probably was to get my real ID. Oh, I got a good one for y'all. I got a good one. That dude, I think you're right. I think it is affecting them a lot more than it's affecting us. Because like I said, a lot of the flyover states, they never made people, get it. But I mean, most of the states are like 70% red anyway. I got one. Let's see. So this kind of goes into the conversation that we was having last week. Who can discuss masculinity? And I want y'all to pay attention to something that's going to be said here.
I would say we were very young. We were in a relationship like 18, 19.
So this is the guy that dated Janae.
Yeah, very young love.
The singer.
And when she got pregnant,
this is her.
For me, I had to make a decision. It was like I never had like my dad like super active in my life, or any like super like male influence. So I was afraid of like kind of messing up one or the other. Like I can't be like you're like a good baby father and like a good man. Like I haven't seen it.
Okay.
For me in my life, personally.
I pay attention. You say you hadn't seen it.
So I was just like, hey, I'm gonna be the best, father I can be for you, and I'm gonna be here for you. I'm gonna be your friend and all of that.
Right.
But I'm not gonna act like I can be with you and maybe break your heart or maybe ruin this whole thing we have going on. I'm gonna just, we just gonna be cool. We, you know what I mean? You could she stay with me the whole pregnancy, care for her, all of that. And you can have your life. You can do whatever you want. But it's like, for me, I wanted to focus on what kind of father I was going to be, what kind of dad,
self-reflection.
Yeah, I had to create that. So, it was like, let me create that, because being with you and then like trying to do that, like, I don't know about that. One thing at a time. So, All
right, I'm going to mute him out. But I don't know if y'all can see this comment, so I'm going to read it right here. It says, "This is sad if you're really listening to it. In short, he operated from trauma." Now, remember, the young man said that he didn't grow up seeing a father and a husband figure, right? So I'm making an assumption here. I don't think it's a logical leap that he grew up, without his father. It made him feel like he had to choose either or and couldn't be both because he didn't see examples of that. Now, I want you to listen to this next part really, really, really closely. Older men not guiding these men into manhood and teaching them to be men has really done damage. I'm gonna read that again. Older men not guiding these men into manhood and teaching them to be men has really done damage. Now, listen to this last part. I don't care if it's a stranger passing at the gas station. These young boys are watching y'all. These childhood traumas are being discussed because they have really affected the way we operate through life. Now, I got another one for you, but we're going to start on this one. Yeah, that June, I think that's her first child's father, and I think Big Sean is the second child's father. I mean, beautiful woman. I can definitely see how it happens. not gonna pretend I don't understand how Janae gets pregnant, especially after that last album she made. Like, I get it. But one of the things that he says there, right? I didn't have a model or an example. Sounds like now that he's older, he realized that he needs that, right? And then when I go to the comment section, that lady's comment stood out to me, right? Because what is she saying? Hey, these boys don't have any guidance, right? Y'all men aren't guiding them, right? What happens every time men are masculine try to have a conversation of what needs to happen in our community, right? Every time there is men that are masculine that say, hey, there has to be something that occurs in our community, right? What happens? When those men speak, what's happening to the masculinity conversation? And this goes into what I said last week, is that men got to take this conversation back, right? And not just men, right? Masculine men have to take this conversation back, right? Not men practicing machismo, but men that are actually practicing masculinity, right? The same thing that you would say that your creator was, right? What did your creator show? Care, grace, mercy. That is what the creator shows. So what is masculinity? Care, grace, mercy. So when men can show those things, right, but are saying, hey, in order for me to be effective, there's something that you're going to have to give me in order for me to be effective. There's something you're going to have to give me in order for me to be effective. Right? What has to be given to a man in order for him to be effective in his home when he's trying to run his home? What has to be given to him? Don't y'all get afraid on me. Did I really lose this clip? Let's see if I can find this clip. See, y'all don't want to answer the question. Y'all trying to leave me out here on the island to say this by myself. When a man, there you go, Barack and God, goodness gracious. Y'all don't have to be afraid of them. They gonna come at me. Y'all don't have to be afraid of them. You can say it. You can say it in chat. I delete it at the end. A man has to be given authority. Man has to be given authority. Hold on, and this is what's crazy, right? Because when I say given authority, right, we're talking about the man that is leading the home, right? Because if you say, hey, men are going to have to be the ones that show the young boys, right? That means that you're going to have to assign that young boy to a man. Growing up, my grandma made the boys stay outside with the men folks because we didn't need to be inside listening to the hens. Generations before us knew what was needed. No, they absolutely knew what was needed. They absolutely knew what was needed, right? You have to go out there because the men are going to show you how to act, right? One of the greatest lessons that you learn as a young man when you interact with other men is restraint, right? Like, I think a lot of people think that it's like, oh, you learn how to fight. No, one of the biggest lessons you learn from older men is restraint. Because most of the time they're restraining themselves from choking you out. So when you get older, you realize that that's what you need to do. You need to show restraint. But we'll sit here and we're talking about authority. And I look, I want to show you something. I'm going to show you something real quick here. This is how screwed up our community is. All right.
You need to teach your children to obey authority. We need to teach our sons and daughters to obey authority. We need to teach our children to not fight against authority, not fight against cops, not rebel. Be model citizens. That is, be submitted to governmental authority. See, now watch. I see all of y'all looking at me. You know why you're looking at me like that? Because you don't read. You listen to people when they talk, and I can hear them blah, 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 blah. No. And in that moment, with that Glock pressed to my head, I got to make a decision. Either my ego is going to be strong, God, or my submission to authority is going to be stronger than my ego. And if I have not been taught to obey authority, and because I'm not saved, I'm separated from God now for all eternity by a cop's bullet. Why? Because my ego was stronger than my.
All right, let's close this out. Let me hide the screen real quick here. Now, this is why I love church, right? Is because he has to pander to his audience. But again, right, it goes to the conversation of when it comes to masculinity, right? So we watched the first clip. Everybody, let's hear it. You have to give respect to the men, even though they're not your man. Too many mothers have kept their boys away from the authority of men because they do not respect men based upon their personal dealings. Yeah, absolutely, right. And but again, right, part of the reason why we have so many young black boys, right, and this is not everybody, right. This is just what they show us of ourselves, right, is because they are not surrounded by masculine men, right. And everybody in the audience is like, yeah, listen to the message. You need to give authority, right? The only time you really gonna have to give authority to the state is if you have never given authority to the patriarch of the family. And when I say patriarch, I'm not using that in the term of patriarchy, right? I'm talking about when we talk about how a home is ordered, right? If we talk about how a home is ordered, that man has to be authorized in order to discipline those children. Because if you don't authorize that man to discipline those children, then the state is authorized at that point to discipline those children. And that's something that I'm seeing a lot of preachers steer away from now, right? Because it comes with the conversation of, well, you don't run me. You don't tell me what to do. And that's one, it's not what submission is, right? Submission is not being told what to do, right? Submission is listening to the desire of the power that's above you or the power that you've given to somebody above you. Like, that's what submission is. But when we started talking authority, right? So we started with the first conversation where it's like, you know, the young lady said, hey, the young boys aren't being raised, right? And then we go to the second conversation of the pastor where he's like, hey, these young boys don't know how to submit to authority, right? There's a clear answer of what's missing here. It's clear as day what's missing here. And we dance around it for whatever reason that we dance around it in our community. It reminds me of the elephant story. I'm sick of telling the elephant story. Y'all probably sick of me telling it. But in South Africa, they moved all the elephants because of poachers. They moved all the elephants around to a different part of the reserve. And when they moved all the elephants around, because the reserve is like 20,000 square miles, it's huge. So they're moving the elephants, right? And when they moved the elephants around, they moved them by helicopter. They took the women and they took the juvenile males, but they couldn't take the bull males because they were too big for the helicopters. So what happened is that in that other part of the park, it was just the women elephants and the juvenile bulls. And what happened is the juvenile bulls started killing rhinoceros that was in the park, right? And they couldn't figure out why was the juvenile bull, because it was something that never happened before. They couldn't figure out why were the juvenile bull elephants killing the rhinoceros, right? And then somebody was just like, hey, why don't we bring the elder male elephants here and see what happens, right? And they brought the elder male elephants to that part of the reserve. You can actually Google this. I'm not making it up, believe it or not. And the killing stopped because the older males now had the influence of the younger males. A lot of problems in our community has come from the place of we are out of order. And the authority that older black men should have in our communities, right? Like, I'm Unc, right? Nobody, I'm one person's daddy. One person's daddy, a few people's papacita, right? That's it, though. That's the length of my authority, right? But in our community, right, we're more willing to offer our sons to the state to have authority over our sons than to say, hey, let me humble myself and give the father the authority over the children. Everybody screams, we're the leaders. That is the crazy part, right? Because God forbid a man comes in with an ideal and says that he should be a leader. If he doesn't pander, he is going to be labeled as a misogynist. Oh man, where do I want to end tonight, man? I had to get those two off. Oh, I think I got another one too. Oh, I got one more. All right, fellas, I'm gonna do this one. I'm gonna make sure that everybody is seen. No, but let's see. No, yes, no order, but it continues to ask for grace and mercy after not respecting the authority. Absolutely, absolutely. What did the big guy say? He said, if you're neither hot or cold, I ain't even gonna fool with you. And our community right now is not hot or cold. We're leaning cold, not a good thing. But we're not hot or cold, right? Because we continually asking for the authority and the protection of the warrior class without giving the warrior class the respect that it needs in order to actually move forward. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm going to try to make these Wednesdays more lighthearted, man. I'm sorry. It's not as funny as the pod. Apologies. This is the stuff that I don't say on the pod though, because I know it will bore a lot of the audience. All right, I got one more, and I'm gonna let y'all go. My bad. All right.
Experience for a moment, because he gave an example like, if my girl is too tired to cook dinner one day, I'm like, okay, cool, no problem. But if I forget to take out the trash, it's a big issue. I accept her humanity, but she don't accept mine. And so I kind of looked around the room to see and when I paid attention, every man was nodding their head. So I asked the room, does that resonate? And they were like, yeah, I don't feel appreciated. I don't know what that even feels like. And that grieved my soul, because I'm like, oh my gosh. I don't think women realize that what our complaints does to a man who is in love. And I thought that was his unique experience for a moment, because he gave an example if my girl is too tired to cook dinner one day, I'm like, okay, cool, no problem. But if I forget to take out the
Now, the only thing I'm going to add on the back end of that, though, right, is kudos to the young lady for basically understanding that, for basically seeing a man, right, for the first time. He's like, yo, if my woman doesn't want to cook, I'm gonna go grab, takeout, right? But if I forget something, right, it's the worst thing in the world. The bad news is, fellas, I don't know what to tell you what to do when somebody resents you. I don't. I don't, right? I don't know what to tell you when someone is keeping score. I don't know what to tell you when, you offer grace and someone else doesn't offer grace, right? What I will say is I pray that all my brothers find someone that sees them, right? That when that grace isn't extended, that they can pause in the moment and say, all right, my bad. You do that. But I don't have any good news for you outside of that. But what I will say is we can't keep score, and we can't stop just because that's the environment that unfortunately we were born into. We can do better, right? We can choose better, right? Now, sometimes we've already chosen, so now it's too late. But we can't stop showing up just because somebody else may not be doing exactly, what I need them to do. Hey, man, anything before I get out of here? Brock, you got anything, man, before I get out of here, bro? Hey man, if y'all take anything that I said here tonight, the one thing I would like for everybody to take out here is true masculinity is care, grace, and mercy. In the pulpit on that one, pass the offering plate. Hey man, once we get an audience, we're gonna pass it around for real. I'm gonna get my donations, as Dr. Umar say. That's how I can stop calling him doctor. But hey man, hey, I appreciate y'all hanging out, politicking with your boy. Hey, these will get better as they're going along. As you can see, I got the screens. Eventually I'll figure it out. I'll get the background and everything set up. But outside of that, gents, man, hey, I appreciate y'all tuning in tonight. Always feel free to hit me up in case you ever need anything. Oh yeah, the young man that killed himself. I'm kind of waiting on more information on that, Marty. Look, I'm a South Carolina fan, so I actually knew who Lacey was because he cost us that game. By catching that pass, I think it was in the third quarter. A lot of problems that we create for ourselves, it happens before it gets to the end, right? Like sometimes the end, we think the end is the result. Sometimes the ending is just the ending, right? That's just the period. Sometimes the result has already occurred, and to your point, so many folks failed him, along the way. And again, I think a lot of that is sometimes us not being conversational and influential as we should be as older men. And look, I don't know if any of us really get it right. I don't think if you nail parenting until your kids are probably like 35, if I'm being honest. But I know that every day, I try. Like I remember I was in the car yesterday, my son, I had picked him up while his mother was watching him for me while I was at work because they're on spring break. And he did something, and I looked in the back seat and I told him, I said, hey man, I was like, you really attack life. I said, you grab it. I was like, because my son is hearing impaired, right? He can hear, but he has hearing loss. And I was like, you never really use that as an excuse, right? If you don't know, you be like, I don't know. And I'm like, that's impressive, man. I was like, you really grab life by the horns. I'm like, don't lose that. My son is 11, right? And I don't know if it's a conversation that he'll remember. Kids remember the dumbest stuff sometimes, right? Not the profound things. But I think one of the things that we have to try to do as men is make sure that our children understand that it's okay to come and talk to dad. Matter of fact, I read this somewhere a year ago. I read it again about 2 weeks ago. I'll leave this. I'll drop this here and then I'm gonna head out. It was a father. He said that with his kids, he wrote a note and he would put it in their drawer for them. And it said, hey, if there's anything that you ever really need to tell me and you want to make sure that I listen and I don't get mad, just bring me this note. And he was like, that was one of the best life hacks that he had girls. But it's something that I think I would even implement with even male children, is saying like, hey, this is your get out of jail free card to come to me, because chances are whatever they're dealing with, it's something that we've dealt with, or it's not as serious as they may think it is. But we have to have that ability to be able to have that conversation, right? Like, I'll be honest, growing up, man, I did not want to talk to my parents. I ain't even gonna lie. Like, I did not. But in retrospect, there's a lot of things that if I would have talked to my parents about, I probably would have gotten way further ahead, right? So I think that's one of the things where, as parents, right, to talk about Mr. Lacey, hurting himself, is that sometimes we just, as young people, we don't know the resources that we have, and sometimes as adults, we don't really tell the young people the resources that they have. So I think that's an opportunity for all of us to, look at our nephews, our nieces, our sons, our daughters, our cousins, and to be like, hey, if there's a conversation, I mean, I'm divorced, but so let me even extend that, right? To be able to extend the grace to say, hey, to my wife, right, to my husband, I heard something, and I hate who said it, but what her husband's response was, I was like, I got to implement that, right? He told his wife, he was like, I don't know how to not love you. And I think that if we implemented that, right, which means that you really got to care about somebody, right? Because you're not going to say that to somebody you don't care about, right? But if we implement that, I think there's a lot more conversation that we can have as a community, from men to men, from women to women, from men to women, from children to parents, to parent to children. I mean, a lot of issues that we have as community, and the only way to rebuild community is through conversation. So that's something that we're gonna have to all work on, including myself, because I am a cutter offer, right? Like you got one time to rip your drawers with me, and I'm like, yeah, I don't need you, right? But the truth of the matter is, everybody's needed, even the people that are useless, right? They are also needed, even if it's just to be cannon fodder. And that's all I got, fellas. I'm gonna hop out of here tonight, man. I've held y'all up long enough, but hey, appreciate y'all coming in. I'll be here next Wednesday. I'll be here every Wednesday, man. Like, even if I'm out of the country, I enjoy these. I enjoy y'all tuning in. And man, y'all have a good night, man. Holla at your boy.